Hello, everyone. Welcome to BowTieSecurityGuy After Dark. I believe this is episode 16. I don't know. With me today is my buddy Kasper Zielinski. Hopefully, I pronounced that correctly.
Yep.
Awesome. 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 Kasper, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what you do, like kind of a little bit about your journey, and then also a little bit about what you do now.
Sure. So thanks, first of all, for having me. I'm, let's say, pretty new in the cybersecurity space, but I've been in sales for the last, I don't know, 6, 7 years or so. So I started out in a Polish startup in the UX space, and that's the majority of the area I've been in. So user experience design, user experience research. But since September last year, so the last 8 months, I've joined Secfense. This is a cybersecurity company. And yeah, it's been a very interesting journey to switch from that mindset into the cybersec space, the personas, the people that I'm talking to, the approach and feedback to cold outbound is much different than UX designers. It's a totally
I,
different crowd.
I can imagine. So look, you mentioned you started in a startup. How did you even get that opportunity? Like a lot of people who listen to this are trying to find opportunities and kind of find ways in. A startup is normally relatively competitive. It's normally pretty hard to get into. Now, I wanted you to come on because you have sales experience. You're starting new in cyber sales, and I wanted to talk
Mhm.
about this as a career option that's kind of cyber adjacent. Like this helps you get a better understanding, I think, of the technology, the people, the language. Those things could be
Mhm.
very impactful to a job interview later if you're looking for a cyber path and maybe you can't find opportunities in the traditional way. But with that Polish startup that you worked at, like how did that even happen? How did you get into that opportunity?
So I'm a pretty lucky person because my English, living in Poland and but being Polish American, so my mother is American. I grew up bilingual. I speak English quite well, and that was my in. But the way I got the opportunity was essentially it was an SDR job. So I was essentially doing outbound. I was looking for jobs. I was applying to companies, doing basically SDR work before I even knew what SDR meant.
And what
And
does
finally,
SDR mean?
it means a lot of research, a lot of outreach to the right people, and figuring out who you want to talk to. And then once you get them on a meeting, the phone or whatever, an email is figuring out the right thing to say or to move whatever you want to do next. So it can be getting your next job, it can be selling your product, or getting
What's the
in
acronym for SDR? I've never heard SDR before.
sales development representative.
Aha. All right, cool. So you see this opportunity and you reach out and how did you even know the opportunity existed?
Oh, job boards. Back then there was no AI, so you couldn't really crawl the web. So just local job boards that I was able to find. And in the, let's say, recent job searches, I would focus on remote focused job boards. So there's a couple of great websites out there like Welcome to the Jungle, which was formerly known as OTTA, but now it's Welcome to the Jungle. There's a bunch of others like remote.co, and things I can share offline, but they're great for looking for remote jobs, which I think is kind of the way to go. But back then it was still in-person interview. It was before the pandemic, so I completely overdressed. I wore like a tweed jacket and a tie, and then I went into a startup, and I was debating with my wife then, like, oh, should I just wear like what I normally wear, like a a black hoodie or a black t-shirt. It's like, no, no, you should probably dress up. So I overdressed, and I come into the room, everyone's wearing black t-shirts, and uh, but I still got the job. I think mainly because of the soft skills. So my English, my ability to feel comfortable talking to people and kind of presenting myself. And then from there, honestly, most of my career has gone through connections. So building a
Yeah.
network early on, and then keeping in touch with these people is key.
I
That's if there's one piece of
keeping in
advice, it's
touch with them, not when you need something. That
exactly.
I think is so important that so many people miss out on. Like, I have people who will reach out only when they need something. It's like, it's very apparent that you're using me. Like, if we have a
Yeah.
relationship, put a little bit of effort into it. One of the things for me, and you mentioned relationships kind of being key. First, I'd like to touch on one thing. The startup area is still a very lucrative area to put your resume in because many of them do not put their stuff on job boards. You can go find their
Yeah.
websites. I was able to get many interviews because I put a resume into startups because they actually look at the resumes. There's still a person looking at them and they're not inundated with them because you actually have to find the company, you have to find the information, and you have to apply to their job board. That's a way that a lot of people I don't think realize are happening because like that's still a viable option. And then you mentioned relationships being kind of key. Man, did I make a huge mistake like not ever. So I was a professional social engineer for many years and I
Mhm.
didn't have a LinkedIn presence when I got laid off. I didn't even have an
Yeah.
account. So it was kind of a weird situation for me to enter into this market where I was like, oh God, I know no one. And how am I even going to find an opportunity? So your relationship got you the opportunity, but your soft skills got you the job, right? And that's what
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people miss out on. So you've got the soft skills. Do you have those inherently, or did you learn them and realize that that's kind of a game changer?
So a little bit of both, I think. I wasn't great at school at that time. Let's say in my high school years, I was considering a completely different opportunity. I was playing the saxophone, so I completed like a extracurricular music school as a classically trained clarinetist, turned into saxophone, so player. I had a couple of bands. That was going to be my career. Like this is totally gonna carry me for the rest of my life, was my impression. But that meant there was not a lot of time for studying at high school. So I got pretty good at, just talking to the teachers, figuring out ways to get a pass and a grade. Like, what is there that I can do? So I think that's part of the soft skills that I developed kind of inherently. And then, of course, the work ethic, the things that I learned as a diligent person that came. I think a lot of that is I credit my wife with well showing me some discipline and teaching me how to get myself organized. And then that's one of the things that got me the job was when I shared that when I did some freelance translation work, I created Excel files to track my progress. And I remember the CFO that I spoke with, he was very impressed that I track my progress in Excel sheets, and they get updated based on like how many characters I translated each day, and it would calculate how much I have to do the next day. So I think if there's one thing that they look for at startups is this ability to self-organize and to
Yeah.
be just diligent and stay on top of things because there's a lot that happens in a startup, and especially if you're an early hire,
Oh yeah, well, and be ready to pivot at a moment's notice, right? I think
for sure.
they look for a few things, what I call malleability, like your ability to kind of form fit into whatever they need you to at that moment. The innate curiosity, constantly
Hmm.
looking at different things, trying to figure stuff out. And then I think the biggest thing they look for is that drive. That's like you said, that self-motivation. They don't have time to be the most effective leaders. They don't have time to be the most effective peers because you're working every day. You're kind of pushing your boundaries and stuff. I personally never worked in a startup, but I would argue many of the companies, even when I worked for Disney, we operated in kind of that like startup mindset when we built new teams and stuff like that because we were running at kind of a rapid pace. Like, hey, we need this. Let's build out anti-phishing and social engineering. Let's build out this, and trying to figure those things out. So you've now
100%.
started to, so I love that you kind of did a career shift. How old were you when you decided that like, your classical days were over and that you should probably find something else? Like what was that age that you go, ah, crap. Like maybe
Uh,
this isn't gonna carry me.
I think it was my second year of high school. So in Poland you do 3 years of high school. So in my second year, towards the end, I realized that this might not be the most lucrative area to to pursue. To do a quick pivot and decided to study geology in university. So
So hang on.
yeah,
This story is great. So you were a clarinetist, right? Like and you were like, you know what? This isn't going anywhere. You know what is going somewhere? Geology. Let's talk
geology,
about rocks.
exactly.
So so you went into geology in studying rocks. When did you make the next pivot? Like when was that kind of career thing where you go, maybe geology is not my thing? When did you find the sales? Did you just kind of luck out into a sales gig or like was it
Kind
something
of.
you actually looked for?
So this is going to be a long one. So
I'm good.
there
That's what this is all about, man.
there were a couple of more steps before my sales job, but so the let's say the second or third pivot was after my first semester of geology. Um, I failed my first semester completely. Officially, I failed math, but that's just because it was the first exam. If I'd gotten to any other exams, I would most likely failed into. That's also the year in which I met my wife, and after we met, a couple of months after, my wife said that she's going to Thailand to teach English. She's a few years older than me, so back then, I was in my early 20s. She'd already finished university, and I said, "Yeah, I'll come along." And at 20, I think I was 20, 21, I moved to Thailand. I first actually I obtained CELTA certification from Cambridge as a teacher of foreign languages or I don't remember what the acronym stands for. It was a super difficult course to do. It took a month, but you finally get this certification. You're officially a trained teacher, and we went to Thailand for a year. And I got a job there at a public school, so official government approved school, not like a dodgy Thai kind of visa run slash school and car rental. This was a proper like primary school where I taught for a year. And after that, I came back. So in Poland, you can take came back, finished my studies. I think 2 years or 3 years after I started. So 2 or 3 years late than I was supposed to. And then I didn't find my sales job yet. My wife and we decided to backpack across Central and South America. So first, we wanted to visit my family in the U.S. We'd gotten engaged the year prior. I finished university, so it was like perfect. This is the right time. And during that trip, we had this goal of getting a remote tech job. So that was the plan. And that's kind of where this journey starts that with the sales and the startups. So we knew that we wanted to travel. That was our main thing. we knew that we had to work to travel, and we figured that remote jobs would be the best. And we just kind of took a look at ourselves, what we're good at, what are our strengths, and based on that, we chose a couple of roles. So for me, it was customer support and sales. Those were the two jobs that I thought I could be pretty good at because with no prior experience, I just knew I was comfortable talking to people. I was pretty open and extroverted. So I figured those are some skills that would work with those types of jobs. My wife, on the other hand, she went more into like marketing, copywriting, things like that. And yeah, I mean, she did get a job. I didn't, unfortunately. I wasn't able uh, to secure anything. She got a job as a freelance editor for a scientific journal. It was a great gig. I was still doing translations from Polish to English in the meantime. And then we came back to Poland. I was in this, I had a good resume because I've been applying for a couple of months for sales opportunities. And I knew this is the area that I want to go into. So when I came home to Poland, I started looking for jobs on these local job boards, and I found a sales job at a startup. I applied with the resume that's been refined and perfected over the a couple of months, and I landed my first job.
That's awesome. When did you decide to leave there, and what was the catalyst for you leaving? Was it another
Leaving
opportunity? Was
Poland
it
or Central
yeah.
America?
No, I mean just originally when you got that first startup gig, you started doing sales. Is that where you're currently at now, or is that was the job previous? So you're still at Secfense. That's kind of the same place you went. Is that the same startup, or did you start at a different startup, I thought?
No, no, I started at a different one. The first one I joined was UXPin. This was a
Y-
company that was based out of the area I'm at, the Tri-City area, and they were competing with back then it was Sketch and Adobe XD, and then Figma came along. And if yeah, this might not mean much to you, but Figma is just absolutely dominated the market. And yeah, that was the start. I've been in a couple of other companies since. But right now, Secfense, cybersecurity, this is where I am.
Is the sales kind of positions, do they kind of ebb and flow? Like you should be prepared for like no longer having a job relatively, you know, I'm curious because a lot of people are looking for stability, and I would argue that stability no longer exists in technology at all. Like
I agree.
I have had people who have been laid off, have gotten a job, laid off 6 months later, gotten a job, laid off 4 months later, gotten a job, laid off a year later. Like that's common. The fact that
Yeah.
I've been at my company for almost 2 years is relatively unheard of for most people bouncing back from a layoff. You should be planning for that next kind of layoff, for lack of anything better. So when you first lost the gig, maybe the company didn't have enough money, maybe you weren't doing enough sales. The reason doesn't matter. How did you handle that? Like what was your first approach when you were kind of recovering from your first kind of like, oh, I am unemployed again. This sucks. You know, what did you do?
So I've only been laid off once,
Mhm.
from a company called Maze. This was the company I was at for the longest in my career. The previous company got acquired by a private equity company. So just let
Yeah,
me
yeah,
dial back a little. Yes, I agree. There is no stability in tech anymore. Absolutely,
yeah,
100%. Even if you're at one of the big ones, Google,
yeah,
Facebook, whatever, you
yeah.
you can't be sure that you'll have a job next day. Add to that the market instability, the tariffs, and everything that's going on is just pretty crazy. The the best advice that I could give is to be prepared. So have your resume up to date. Just be aware of where the jobs are, more or less. You don't have to apply if you're happy at your current job. But if the moment you start seeing things going a little hairy or a little astray, is I would just start applying. And this was the case at Maze, the company I actually got laid off from. There were signs and signals that things weren't going well for the last couple of months that I was at Maze. The overall feeling that I had when I finally did get laid off was one of relief that I didn't have to work there anymore because the company culture had changed drastically in my last year there and for the worse. So there was relief. I had an interview booked for the next day.
After
So
you
I
got laid
was
off,
after I got laid off. I
yeah,
was I was very prepared, but there was also a feeling of so there were two previous rounds of layoffs
yeah.
before that, and I didn't get laid off. The first one, I felt good. I was like, great, I'm still at the company, I'm valued. The second round of layoffs, I was so bummed I didn't get laid off. I was really the 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 difference between when I was fired and when there was the round of layoffs was that when there were layoffs, people get very nice severance packages. They get taken care of. There was
Yeah,
psychological support for employees, access to the network, help from our HR department to with writing resumes and applying. Like there's this whole
yeah, that's
support
awesome.
network and everything. That was amazing. When I got laid off, or I didn't, I was yeah, well,
Unceremoniously fired.
uns
They found
yeah, without cause. And
yeah,
they did not offer that. So I had to fight for it. I had to there months
yeah,
or not months, but a couple of weeks of email exchanges about getting paid my last commission, getting some
yeah,
severance, negotiations, things like that. And it wasn't nice. So it I was happy that I was gone, but I wish
yeah,
I could have been gone 6 months prior to that. They just kind
yeah.
of
Well,
squeezed out the rest of the juice and then got rid of.
it's right. Well, when they run out of money, they start to just look at ways to get rid of people, right? Like,
Yeah.
the way that we went through rounds of layoffs at Disney was brutal. It was like 10 months of psychological torture and like three or four
Jeez.
rounds of layoffs. I made it to the final day, to the final 5 minutes. So like
And
I had a good idea that it was coming because I had some opportunities to make myself a target above my team.
mhm,
I was okay with it, but even then it just still sucked, right? Like even though you want it to happen, even though you want it to be there, like being unemployed, I think for a man is a lot of our definition of self-worth. So for me, I was just like in this weird depressive state. Like, yeah, I was happy because the culture at Disney had kind of gone the same way. It was more of a toxic culture because they were
mhm,
creating that atmosphere where people didn't want to be there. And I'm hoping that it comes back at one point. And I'm sure it will because all businesses kind of ebb and flow like that. And it really depends on who's leading things and who's making decisions. So as that happened, I kind of was in that state of shock. I, like you, was prepared. Um,
mhm.
but it was still kind of a weird situation. So you go into these next interviews, um, you overdress for your interview, for some of them. One
Yeah,
of the pieces of advice I give is like always dress what you're comfortable in, because if you're not comfortable, it's going to show in your body language. It's going to show in the way you present yourself. If you don't like wearing a suit, don't wear a suit. Period. Like
100%.
I wear bow ties because the whole bow tie security guy moniker. But and once I get the job, those pretty much end. But it's that persona and stuff that I kind of create. It's not for me. They're a comfort and they make me feel strong. And they make me feel empowered. So it's like whatever you feel good in is what you should wear. And if somebody judges you because of your outfit, they're probably not the right company, right?
Yeah,
Like I, I
100%
always
agree.
I always say if somebody's like looking at, your outfit and your things to determine whether or not you're a good fit, like they're probably not a company you want to work for anyways. So now
Yeah.
that you've gotten into the cyberspace, you've kind of had that kind of prolonged career of pivoting, learning different things. what was the learning curve like, kind of understanding the technology and understanding kind of just the lingo and being able to hang with some of these tech people? Because cybersecurity people, a lot of us are really arrogant pricks. Like, I'm just going to be real. I'm not saying you will say that. I'm going to say that, because we've worked really, really hard to be the smartest person in the room. Um,
Yeah.
how do you kind of come to that energy and kind of bring your like, hey, I don't know much. I'm kind of a new guy. Like, can we talk about some stuff? Like, how do you even have broach that subject?
So that's a really good question. And this is honestly still a work in progress.
Yeah,
I've been here 8 months. I would not call myself a subject matter expert in even the software that we're selling. So
yeah,
we have solutions architects who support the sales team, and that's a huge support that we get. And when those guys get into technical discussions with the other cybersecurity people on the Zoom calls, I just space out. Basically, there's a lot going on, especially in our area, because there's different like uh, protocols and network infrastructure that gets involved. So it's not only technical, it's also I think pretty niche for it's not typical cybersecurity. It's specifically network and
yeah,
multi-factor authentication, things like that, identity and access. So I wouldn't uh, there is a portion of like imposter syndrome, right? That everybody,
yeah.
I guess with every job you have to deal with it. In cybersecurity, if you're not in the haven't been in the space for 20 years, which I see is the average tenure of most cybersecurity people that I meet. They've
All of
been in
those
the
gray
job for,
hairs. Yeah,
yeah,
we've been
for
doing
sure.
this
I
for a
mean,
bit.
but you start early, right?
Yeah,
That's where you get the experience from. But if you're a newbie like me and you get into the space, I just be honest, be true, say that you don't know things, and ask the person that you're talking. This is from a sales perspective.
yeah,
It's actually a pretty good thing to do is to ask the prospect or the lead you're engaging with for their opinion, their advice, and
yeah.
cybersecurity people will often very gladly give you this
We
advice
love
and
to talk, man. We love to talk.
exactly.
No, you actually did that with me. You reached out and you're like, "Hey, I'm kind of new to this space. I'd love to kind of get your input on things." I think it was a cool way in because so many salespeople come in with an approach that's like just super aggressive, or they send me a 20-page thing that tells me about their product. I'm not going to read it. I don't like
No.
if you don't even want to take the time to look at my page and you're going to send me an automated message, like I'm not going to bother responding. Or if I do, I say nice automated message, you know. Um, like your approach, I think, was much softer and more genuine. I think that you're the way you've kind of differentiated yourself from many people, and the reason I'm kind of chatting with you now on the podcast is because I knew there was a story there. Because like your approach to sales is completely different than most people's because you're not aggressive, you're the right approach, and you're building relationships for long-term growth. Like you're not looking for those short-term wins. You're like, hey, let's have a chat, let's have a conversation. And I kind of love that approach. But I feel like that's where your whole career has been, right? Like you make those connections, you make those opportunities, and you use those soft skills, which I think right now are the most important skill to have. I don't care how technical you are. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care that you're top 1% in try hack me. What I care about is can you talk to me without making me feel stupid? Because
Yeah, 100%.
that skill is hard.
I agree, and it is a bit of a change, to be honest, from my previous roles. They were more um, let's say small and medium business focused, with
Yeah,
a trying to get into enterprise. And this is, I think the difference in my new role is the enterprise sales aspect where everything is the long game. There's no such thing as a quick win in
right.
enterprise sales. There's
No.
only long-term relationships, things you need to well, it's like any friendship, right? You have to put effort into it. If you just reach out if you need something, that's like you said at the beginning, that's not a good relationship. Nobody's going to bother with that. So there's a lot of value that you need to build, trust, and to provide
Yeah.
value. And I thank you for recognizing that. But in my attempt to reach out to you, but I
No, it
think this
was
is
it was
a great
awesome.
start.
Yeah, well, it was really great to kind of see. And like and just so everyone knows, like I don't have a relationship with this company or anything. I just thought that this was a great opportunity for people who may not be able to get into the cyberspace right now, but can be get cyber adjacent. This could help you meet people. This could help you meet other cyber professionals, give you an excuse to talk to those cyber professionals. And it could be something that you utilize to pivot your career into a cyber job, as well as learning the cyber stack, understanding the technology. Like you had kind of mentioned, like, you're listening to these calls, and even though you may not fully understand them, you're starting to get more of the language, you're starting to feel a little more confident. And it takes time. And that imposter syndrome, I think, like you said, everyone feels. I know I felt it for damn near 40 years.
Mm.
I'm only now comfortable enough to say I no longer have imposter syndrome. But it was 40 years of my life. Like I'm 44 now, and I honestly did not think I was good enough. I have a high school education. I didn't put in all the effort that all these other people did. Everything I had to learn on my own. I didn't have any sort of help in that regard. So when I came into these rooms with people who are like previous NSA agents and like I'm like, oh, hey,
Yeah.
I like to hack stuff. Can I hang out? It was really overwhelming, but what I found is what you said. The most powerful tool is asking questions, right? Is not being afraid to show a little humility, saying you don't know something. Because the guy or girl who pretends to know something and then gets called out by not knowing that is not somebody you're going to trust or want to work with.
Absolutely.
And
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 and you can
and
always tell that they actually don't know.
my God. And these people who think they're clever, man, I can't, I can't. I had a guy that I interviewed recently who just dropped a bunch of acronyms on me and was like trying to confuse me. And I'm like, you do realize I've been doing this for 20 years, bro. Uh, so what would
Yeah.
be I think your whole story is all about staying curious, being ability to pivot at a moment's notice, and then planning for the worst is kind of the keys to success there. Is unfortunately, I think now that's kind of the way forward. So if
The
you
way to
had,
go.
yeah, if you had like a piece of
Yeah.
advice that you could give to somebody starting out who wants to get into cyber sales, what would that kind of advice be? And how would you tell them to start?
So I would, from a it's a tough question. That's why I like it. I think if you've already got sales experience, then leverage the skills that you already have. Show that you don't have to be a subject matter expert going into the interview of what you're uh,
Yeah, and no, I totally agree with you. I, don't be a subject matter expert. Kind of take your time, learn those different things, and just push forward and be open and honest. No, that's awesome. I appreciate your time today, brother. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Uh, have an awesome day, and good luck with all your sales stuff. Thank you again for sharing this because I think this is another path that people could really benefit from. All right, then. Good luck out there.